I'm Molly Kimball. Welcome to Fueled, a wellness and nutrition podcast. I'm a registered dietitian and nutrition journalist with a passion to help people live their strongest, healthiest life possible. In my weekly TV segments and columns, there's a limited amount of time and space to cover everything, but there's so much more to share. This podcast is my opportunity to dive deeper into the topics you want to know about. Welcome to Fueled Wellness and Nutrition, the podcast. I'm registered dietitian Molly Kimball, and I'm your host. Today's episode is about behavior change and specifically lasting, sustainable behavior change. So a lot of us will set goals throughout the year. It may be a New Year's resolution. It may be other health kicks throughout the year that we're really fired up about, we feel really strong about. They may last several days, weeks, a month, or even more. But eventually, it's really easy to kind of slide back into our old habits. So in today's episode, I'm covering 6 key habit-shaping strategies that can help you to make these wellness changes for good. So when it comes to nutrition, the foods you're putting into your body, activity, physical movement, whether it's sleep or any other realm of wellness that you're looking to improve, these 6 key habit-shaping strategies are going to be really helpful. So I'll run through what they are, then we'll kind of talk through each of them. And this is just 6. There's so many other key elements to setting these goals, being successful, having that follow through, and having them be lasting and sustainable. These are the 6 that I find most common as far as barriers or things that clients can improve upon. Also, the 6 that are really effective, that when we focus on these, they can really help us kind of tune into what we really need to do to be successful. So things like troubleshooting. Why in the past have you failed or have you gotten off track? And a lot of times that can be really challenging to look at because we don't want to often admit to ourselves that we've failed, but troubleshooting about why something isn't working. So we'll talk about that more coming up. Number 2 is revising our self-identity. So not just setting goals that don't seem to align with who we are, but starting to reframe, reshape our identity that we are these goals that we want to reach for. So again, we'll talk more about that. So troubleshooting what's been wrong or what hasn't worked in the past, revising that self-identity to align with what our priorities and goals are, evaluating our environment, what's around us that is helping us propel forward and what's around us that might be hindering us. Number 4 is going to be love your food. Number 5 is going to be love your game plan and why these are both so important. And then number 6 is streamline, simplify, and be specific. So we'll cover all of these in more detail throughout today's podcast. So starting with troubleshooting, why things haven't worked in the past. A lot of times if we're setting a goal, it's not the first time we've said that. You know, how many times has someone said, I want to lose 5 pounds, 10 pounds, 20 pounds, or I want to get more sleep, or I want to exercise more. A lot of times when we're saying these are things that we've tried in the past and we keep trying them again and we keep setting these as goals. So if it's not the first time you've done it, why didn't it work before? So why did these past efforts fail? And again, it's not easy to acknowledge that we have failed. It's not easy to acknowledge our flaws, but we can't keep doing the same thing and think that something different is going to happen. And also, we can't just wish away whatever that bad habit is or wish for whatever good habit is we want. We have to change those daily patterns if we expect to get results. So really taking that close look into ourselves and exploring what our weaknesses truly are and what are these behaviors, habits that are pulling us off track. What's prevented you from being successful over the years. And so sometimes what's prevented us or what's been that barrier could have been a giant life-changing event. It might be what's hopefully a one-time thing. It could be, you know, if you had a loss of a loved one, a loss of a relationship. It could be a natural disaster that impacted you. It might be something giant that hopefully is not going to be something that's recurring. But even really small things can get in the way of success for us. And sometimes it might be even certain associations that we have. So when we're starting to troubleshoot and we think, why do I get off track? Truly breaking down your day and truly looking at, let's just say your goal is, weight loss, but that afternoon time is when you feel like everything goes out the window and you're craving sweets, you're craving whatever it is, and you feel like you really go off track nutritionally. What's happened to precipitate that? So, is it that when you leave work, you feel stressed, you feel anxious, and you swing through a drive-through, or you go into a gas station or convenience store or drugstore and get whatever that snack of choice is? It isn't so healthy, but it's a self-soothing, kind of a numbing out thing. Or is it when you get home, you're rummaging through the mail, you're kind of mindless, but you're reaching for these foods, and before you know it, you've polished off a box of XYZ. Or is it nighttime when everything around you starts to slow down, but your mind isn't? And so, again, turning to food for that numbing out. So, really identifying what are the times of days or what events precipitate um, a binge or going off track or whatever it might be. If your goal is to exercise on a regular basis and you find that you aren't, why not? Is it because you feel like you have too much work to do and you don't have the time? Or is it that you would rather spend time with a friend or family instead of going to the gym? So, what are these things that are kind of these barriers to success? So, truly looking into is it something situational? Is it emotion driven? What are these triggers that have resulted in not positive behavior? These triggers could either bring on negative behaviors, things that are destructive, or these triggers can simply prevent us from taking that step towards those better behaviors. So, really looking and seeing, okay, what am I doing or not doing that is hindering me from reaching my goal? And what is really behind it? What has happened through that day? What happened right in that moment? What was going through my head in that moment? So, really, that can be challenging because sometimes we don't like the answer. And sometimes it might be a troubled relationship with someone who you're really close with. And that can be a huge challenge to overcome. So that's, again, I realize that it's not easy, but troubleshooting why our efforts in the past have not been successful is going to be key so that we don't keep doing the same thing, the same thing, the same thing, and think that we're going to get different results. So once you've kind of done that self exploration and recognized what these obstacles are, what these barriers are, then it's the really hard part starts because we've got to decide, okay, what changes are you willing to make to remove these barriers? So again, those barriers might be bringing on poor behaviors, or those barriers might be preventing really healthy behaviors. But whatever those are, what are those obstacles? What are those barriers? And what changes can you make? What's possible? What do you think will be effective with this? And what are you actually willing to follow through on and do differently to remove these to help maximize your odds of achieving your goals? Because the goals that we set are a lot of times what we're wishing for. It's what we want to have. I want to lose this weight, or I want to exercise more. I want to feel better. I want to sleep more. But we're kind of wishing for it, but we're not really taking those specific, sometimes hard steps in order to reach those. So, really thinking through why am I, and asking yourself really honestly, why am I not achieving this? Why am I not eating well or moving more or whatever it is? And really being honest with what that answer is. What stories have you been telling yourself that may or may not be kind of helping you just feel better about it? So, again, this is probably the most challenging of our steps, but it's what I think is really the most essential. When I'm working with clients, when our dietitians at our Ashna Fitness Center are working with clients, these are things that we really start to dig through, along with kind of talking nutrition and nutritional plan and timing and things, because this is actually, it's one thing to have the facts and the tools about, what that nutritional plan can look like that would be really beneficial. But we first have to identify what these setbacks are, and making sure that we are being really honest with ourselves and giving ourselves a true chance for success, and really setting ourselves up for success by troubleshooting what's gotten in our way before. So, number one of our habit shaping strategies is troubleshooting. So, once you've gotten that conversation going with yourself, while you're doing that, it doesn't have to be after, but even while you're doing that, Number two is revising our self identity. And that doesn't mean changing who we are or becoming different people, but it's believing that you are these healthy habits that you want to be. So if we think that we aren't healthy and we have this idea or this image of ourselves that we don't like exercise, or we feel like we're, you know, whatever negative things that we're telling ourselves about ourselves or we believe about ourselves, then we're saying, I want to get exercise in daily. But if we feel like that's not truly who we are, it feels like it's something that's a temporary fix, because if you feel like, I'm just not a person who exercises, that's not me, that's not what I enjoy. I like doing, whatever it is. I like art, I like being at the computer, I like just watching movies or whatever it is that you feel is more sedentary. If you haven't identified yourself as someone who enjoys physical movement, it's hard to stick with that goal of incorporating physical movement daily. So, same thing when it comes to like making better choices. And that kind of gets into the whole, on a diet or not. Get rid of that word diet, because it isn't a diet, and it's whatever you're choosing to do. If someone is simply watching their carbs, if they're clearing out their white carbs, their sugars, their refined carbs, if they are doing intermittent fasting or keto or any other specific plan, whatever you've decided to do, set your mind to it, but not thinking of it as a diet, thinking of it as a lifestyle and something that you're embracing. And so when we think of something that's a diet, then we think of ourselves as having like one normal pattern, and this diet is temporary. These choices I'm making are temporary. Whereas when we start to identify ourselves more as someone who we make healthy choices, and not all the time, but most of the time, putting healthy foods in our bodies, we're going to feel a lot better, sleep a lot better, our energy is more solid. And we kind of look at ourselves that way, as opposed to a person who's on a diet. It sounds very subtle, and it is very subtle. But instead of thinking of yourself as your norm, what you feel like you've been for your whole life, and seeing yourself as something completely different down the road, start to envision yourself as that now. And it's going to make it easier to make those choices, because that becomes part of your identity. You do make healthy choices. You are mindful of this. You are aware of what you're putting into your body. You care about what you're putting into your body. So the bottom line on this is to change your behavior for good. We have to start believing these new things about ourselves. We can't just think that they are for now, temporary type things that we're doing. So let it kind of sink in. But if we're thinking about behavior change for good and what's going to keep us, what's going to keep that momentum going, we have to start identifying ourselves as that person we want to be. So we have to start believing these things about ourselves that are these things that we're striving to do. So again, a very subtle shift in our mentality, but it can be very powerful. So the third habit shaping strategy is evaluating our environment. And this has a very far reach. Our environment can be who we surround ourselves with, what people are we spending the most time with. It can be what's around us. Do we have a ton of clutter in our kitchen? Is it hard for us to even open the pantry without things tumbling out at us? Or is our office a wreck and it's hard for us to kind of have focused, streamlined thoughts? When we sleep, is there a TV on? Is it a comfortable sleeping environment? Is it suited for that or not? So when we talk about evaluating our environment, that means a lot of things. So I guess the first that we'll start with is who and what we're surrounding ourselves with. And on the who part, aligning ourselves with those friends and family that we know support us, believe in us, they want us to succeed, and making sure that we open up to them, that we share with them what our goals are, because they want to support us, and choosing to spend more time with them. If you have the friends or the family that's kind of always playing a little bit of the devil's advocate, or the come on, have a little bit, or it's just this one time, or you're no fun if you're not doing, indulging in whatever this is with me. Not that you don't want to spend time with them, but kind of buffer yourself up for that. And maybe in those first few weeks or that time period that feels very delicate as you're incorporating these new habits, Focus on spending more time with the people who you know support your habits, and ideally people who also have those habits themselves. Because going back to identifying ourselves as that, when we're spending time with people who that is their norm, they do reach for healthy foods or they do get physical activity on that daily basis, just movement as part of what they do. It's not odd. And the things that you're going to choose to do aren't even going to be an issue there. So choosing who we surround ourselves with, what we surround ourselves with, what is in our car, our office, our kitchen, so that when we do have a craving strike, what's there for us to reach for. So clearing out the clutter so that we can see what's there, clearing out the things that are really tempting and we tend to overindulge on, and then making sure that we're surrounding ourselves with these healthful options for food, but then also surrounding ourselves with options that are going to make it easy to get in that daily exercise, make it easy for us to get sleep, which we'll talk more about sleep coming up. But those three things are going to be key: sleep as much as exercise and nutrition when we're looking at kind of that whole body wellness. In some cases, you might find that you have to restructure some of the things around your environment, and that might be organizing the kitchen differently. It might be taking the snacks that are right in arm's length at your arm's reach at your office and putting them in the office kitchen so that you'd have to get up and walk down the hallway there. Put them in a coworker's office because you don't want to have to go in there and like ask for it or slip it out of their office every time. So whatever it is that you need to do to kind of restructure your environment to set you up for success. And then as we're doing this, as we're kind of evaluating that environment, what's around me that is supporting these habits and what's around me that's kind of pulling me down, these are going to make these habits turn into lifestyle changes. And then following through with these little habits day in, day out, multiple times a day, making that better choice for ourselves, it becomes less of a choice and more of a lifestyle. So I want to take a minute to thank our sponsor for this podcast episode, Billy. Billy delivers premium razors direct to you for half the price of what you would find in stores. You can go to billy.com to get their starter kit. It includes 2 razor cartridges, a handle, and a little magnetic holder for the shower. And for only $9, you can get 4 refill blades every 1, 2, or 3 months, depending on what you need. And what's really cool is Billy is an Allure Best of Beauty winner. They're also on Nylon's beauty hit list. And to express a little love for our show, go to mybilly.com/fueled for 10% off of your razor. It's a small way that you can support us while you're getting the best razor for half the price of razors in stores. Plus, shipping is always free. This is a limited time special, so go now to save 10% off at mybilly.com/fueled. That's mybilly, mybillie.com/fueled. Okay, so number 4, the way that I say it is love your food. And what I mean by that is if you're making nutritional changes and you're looking to put more nourishing foods into your body, reach for foods that you really love and that you're enjoying it and you're not punishing yourself by making yourself drink or eat something on a daily or more often than daily basis that is just really not enjoyable to you because it's probably not something you're going to stick with. And even if you're not a big vegetable person, there's probably some way that you can find to have vegetables that you don't mind it. Juicing. If you do a 16-ounce bottle of juice, for example, fresh pressed vegetable juice, that's like eating 5 pounds of vegetables. And you may say, okay, well, I don't love drinking the juice, but I can kind of drink it quickly. I feel a lot better after I do it. It's not torture. I can do it on a daily basis and I'm getting loads of nutrients from that. Okay, that's good. Or it might be that, you didn't love squash or cauliflower, maybe the way your parents prepared it growing up. But if you drizzle some olive oil on it, put a little bit of seasonings on it, some herbs, stick it in the oven, roast those vegetables instead of steaming them or however else used to be prepared, you may find that you do truly like it. And then there's all types of recipes, as we know, that use things like cauliflower as a base instead of rice or mashed potatoes or grits. And so having whatever type of lean protein with whatever type of a sauce, an olive oil sauce or marinara or whatever. There's so many different things that you would do that you would put over rice or potatoes or something like that. and just putting it over the pureed cauliflower. That can be just an easy way to cut carbs and add vegetables in there. But there's so many things we can do that can kind of, I don't want to say mask vegetables, because hopefully there's some that you like enough that you don't have to mask them. But if you don't, there's going to be a way to prepare it that you can at least enjoy it and you're not having to force yourself to do it. Because again, if every day it's unpleasant, we're probably not going to follow through with it. So love your food. And when we're talking about reaching for what types of foods of the day, I encourage to always have things that are protein rich. And so if you hate cottage cheese, don't make yourself eat cottage cheese. Reach for something else instead. But there's plenty of options there's countless options that can give us proteins, that can give us healthy plant-based fats. So if you're not a big avocado fan, but you like almond butter, that's fine. Don't make yourself eat avocado. You could instead incorporate almond butter with apple slices or something like that. But looking to see, okay, we want lean proteins, we want plant-based fats, we want vegetables, finding these foods that you actually truly enjoy so we're not forcing it. When we truly love the foods that we eat, we're not even thinking that we're not conscious that we're making that healthy choice after a while. We're just eating them because we really enjoy them. And by the way, they happen to be helping us reach our goals. So, number 5 is after love your food, number 5 is love your game plan. So, once you've decided what your goals are, once you've kind of looked and done the troubleshooting on what's gotten us off track before and what kind of specific changes do we need to incorporate so these things don't happen again, trying to kind of realign that self-identity and identifying ourselves as someone who already does these things and not someone who's dieting or making these extreme changes. So once you've done this and you've kind of developed what your game plan is going to be through the day, make sure it includes things that you truly love. So I think the most obvious one is around exercise. And that can be a really easy way to make it fun. So if you hate going to the gym, don't make yourself go to the gym. If you love spending time with certain friends or family, engage them with it. So I've mentioned before on this podcast that I love doing walk and talks. My office is in a fitness center, so we have ellipticals there. And if we don't get the opportunity to go outside to do a walk and talk, weather's not great or whatever, we can do inside elliptical chats. And so that's just a way that it's a two birds. It's a layering in those habits, layering in those healthy habits with something you wanted to do anyway. So that person who you really want to catch up with and hear what's been going on with them and spend some time with them, doing that over a walk and talk or doing that through a workout that you can kind of dip into both of those is pretty fantastic. Because the bottom line is when we're setting these goals, it needs to be something that we're actually motivated to do. Too often we are making goals that we think we should make. I'm not a fan of the word should at all. But a lot of times we do think I should do this. And so it's kind of drudgery and it's not something that's really firing us up. It's not lighting us up. It doesn't excite us, but we think we should do it. And so this is kind of what we set as that goal or that plan that we're going to do. Don't do that. Find what you're actually motivated to do. What do you enjoy? What do you feel better after you've done it than you did before you got started with it? So that's what's going to make us actually want to take action on and to follow through with. The other key thing is accountability. And we can make accountability still really fun. It can be a challenge with a friend. It could be something tying in with a friend, a coworker. Even if you're meeting with a professional, if you're meeting with a registered dietitian or a behavioral therapist or something that is a professional who's going to help you do some of these other things we talked about, troubleshooting and what's getting in the way and helping you build out your plan, that can still be a really fun way to do it. So make sure that you've got someone that you've connected with, that you enjoy them, you look forward to seeing them, hearing their feedback, sharing your progress with them, because a little bit can go a long, long way to help you stay motivated, to help you stay on track. There's apps, of course. MyFitnessPal is a really easy one where you can log your intake, you can log your exercise. It gives you a lot of great feedback. A lot of the fitness trackers have just built-in versions of that too that can track your steps. They buzz on your wrist or celebrate whenever you reach your goal for calories or steps or miles through the day or whatever it might be. So there's all these little things we can do that are kind of fun ways to help stay on track and that it's still helping us really love that plan that we've had. All right. And so finally, our habit shaping strategy number 6 is keep it simple, keep it streamlined, and keep it specific. And this is really hard to do because we kind of want to reach for the sun, the moon. We want to have it all and we want to have it all right now. But keeping it simple, keeping it streamlined, and keeping it specific is going to be really key. So let's just start with I want to lose weight. That is a very broad goal. And it's not very specific at all. And it doesn't really talk about or address how we're going to do it or what those behavior changes are going to be. Same thing if we just say, I want to get more sleep, I want to get more exercise. Those are really broad. They're not specific. They're not addressing what that actual game plan is going to be for us. So instead, I recommend focusing on one thing and maybe two, but do that one or two things well before you try to change anything else. Over time, these multiple habits that we do incorporate on a day-to-day basis, they'll build and build and build to form these long-lasting, sustainable behavior changes. So, for example, if you're looking to add more movement into your day, it's not enough just to say that you're going to exercise more. What type of exercise are you going to do? How many days a week? What days is it going to be? What time of day? Where is it going to be? When are you going to fit it in? What else are you going to give up, or what in your day are you not going to do during that window so that you can get exercise in? Make sure that you have very realistic expectations of what you can do, and what you're willing to do on that daily or weekly or monthly basis. Same thing if it comes to nutrition and you say, okay, I'm going to cut back on what I'm eating. How? When are you going to eat less? Is it going to be all throughout the day, or is it going to be at dinner when that's really your time that you're really overindulging? How are you going to eat less? Is it going to be smaller portions? Is it going to be cutting out starches at night, or making snacking after dinner off limits? What are you going to do that's going to be that strategy to help you eat less? So again, just saying that we want to lose weight, eat less, get more exercise, sleep more. That's not enough. It's not specific enough. So we need to make sure that we're being very specific on what that change is, what that behavior is going to be, and how we're going to get there. Part of what can help us do that is to take that big, lofty goal and break it into small pieces, into these little bite-sized pieces that you feel like you can take on. So again, if that goal is, I want to lose weight, it might mean you need to try to cut back on how much you're eating and move more and sleep more. But let's start with eating and identifying, okay, well, I'm pretty good with my breakfast, with my lunch. I could add more protein at breakfast, add more protein at lunch to keep me fuller longer to help offset that afternoon time that gets a little bit out of hand. Developing that plan and kind of taking that big lofty goal and breaking it into these baby steps to help us get there. Giving ourselves these very specific rewards along the way doesn't have to be big. It might even just be sharing it with a friend again and getting that positive feedback. But that positive feedback is going to be key to rewiring the circuiting in our brains so that we continue with these positive behaviors. So giving ourselves that positive feedback, giving it to ourselves, having other people give it, these are things that are going to help us instill these behavior changes as lasting habits. So when we're talking about being specific or simple or streamlined, this can even be like dialed into something as simple as your coffee. So for example, hypothetically, you're going to the coffee shop on a regular basis and you're getting some sort of sugary blend, and you know that it's not the greatest, but you love it and you feel like it brings you happiness. And so you can kind of consider that your splurge for the day. But when you look at it, a lot of the sugary coffee drinks have 60, 80 grams of sugar. That's literally 3 or 4 days worth of added sugar. And it's not doing anything to help our mood, our energy, keeping us level and stable. And it's certainly not doing anything to help our waistline or helping us reach any kind of like health goals. So something like a sugary coffee drink, for example, if that's one of your vices, Okay, how are we going to shift this? How are we going to make our coffee work for us? So you don't have to immediately swing the pendulum all the way to black coffee. That would, we don't have to go that extreme. But what's something that you can do to help you feel better, look better, live better, have more solid energy? So cutting out these sugary drinks and then figuring out how can you do something similar. And so this is where we talk about streamlining, make it very specific and keep it very simple. So, okay, instead of swinging through the coffee shop and getting whatever sugary drink, you may choose to blend yours. So, here in New Orleans, there's PJ's Coffee Shop, and PJ's has a protein velvet ice, and it is a Eat Fit approved by our Eat Fit organization with Oshner, but it's a Eat Fit approved protein velvet ice. And it's basically iced coffee blended with protein powder and milk. And so, if you were getting some sort of sugary frozen coffee drink that was loaded with 3, 4 days of sugar, an easy switch if you were in the Louisiana area could just be, okay, I'm going to do the protein velvet ice at PJ's. If you don't have that around you, it's not convenient. You can always make a similar version yourself. So get coffee concentrate, protein powder that you like. You can do plant-based or whey-based, vanilla, chocolate, and whatever type of milk you like. Unsweetened coconut milk, unsweetened almond milk. Those are two of my favorites, but it could be regular 2% milk or any of whatever your thing is. Put that with your coffee concentrate, put your protein in there, put some ice, blend it up. You'd be surprised at how really tasty it is. And that might curb that craving that you have for that sugary coffee drink, but we are also truly making that coffee work for you. You can do something similar with collagen, adding that to your coffee and blending it up. So there's ways that we can take what was a vice and completely reverse it and make it not only just neutral, but actually making it beneficial for us, making it a way that we're going to get in that collagen powder supplement or protein or something like that. So when we're thinking about habit changes and we think, oh, again, kind of go into the word should, oh, I know I shouldn't drink those sugary coffee drinks, but we're not going to go to black coffee probably if that's what you've been doing. So what's something that we can do in the middle? Another is iced coffee. If there's like a ready to drink protein drink that you like, again, vanilla or chocolate, there's so many brands on the market. Iconic is one, Orgain makes another, but there's a ton of ready to drink protein drinks that are anywhere between 15, 20 grams of protein and very, very low sugar. If you use that with a coffee concentrate, put it over ice, now we have a vanilla or a chocolate iced coffee that is high protein, very low sugar, no artificial sweeteners or anything like that. And again, making that coffee work for you. So that's just one example of how we can take something that might be a real negative, turn it into a positive. But when we're talking about goal setting, we're being very simple. We're being very focused and streamlined on that one issue. And we're also being very specific in how we're changing it. We're not just broadly saying, I shouldn't do that. I know I need to do something different. So again, thinking through how can we be as specific as possible with these. These, I think, really apply when we look at keeping it simple, keeping it streamlined, keeping it specific. That's going to be key for exercise as well. Especially if you're not exercising on a regular basis, it can be really overwhelming to add this into your day on a regular basis. So first, I would say schedule it into your calendar. So if you haven't been exercising and you're fit, think about when is it going to work for your schedule, for your family, for your job, whatever it is, what's going to be the most convenient for you. Truly schedule it into your calendar just like any other appointment. So if you use a digital calendar on your phone or you use an old school handwritten agenda, whatever it is, mark it on your calendar, block off that time. Be sure to give yourself time to get there and get back from there. So if you knew that this class is 45 minutes, but it takes you 15 minutes to get there, 15 to get back or change clothes or whatever, block off that whole window that you're going to need and protect that time just like you would any other appointment. When it comes time to get in that exercise, say it's a spin class, a boot camp, or whatever it is, and you don't feel like it, and you're like, oh gosh, I was going to go for a walk, I was going to do an hour, but I really don't feel like it. Commit to doing 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and give yourself permission to stop after 10 or after 15 if you want. And I can promise you, almost never are you going to stop. Because going from sedentary to thinking we're going to do 45 minutes or an hour intense, that's intimidating sometimes. It's a real long way to go from our chair, our car, our sofa to thinking we're going to go to that boot camp. And it's hard sometimes to put ourselves there. But if we think I'm going to go for a brisk walk for 10 minutes and I'm going to give myself permission if after 10 minutes I want to stop, turn around, go back, you're probably not going to, because we will have had that endorphin release. We would have had that better oxygenation to our brain, to our blood cells. We've gotten our muscles warmed up. We've had that shift in our mindset and our body. So I would urge and really encourage you, if you are thinking, gosh, I'm dragging today, I don't think I'm going to get that workout in, tell yourself that you're going to do 10 minutes, ideally 15 minutes. And at the end of that, if you want to stop, you can, because you're probably not going to stop. So of course, recruiting someone to kind of be your partner is going to be great on that too. Someone who you're accountable to, or that person who you just love spending time with. And it's a double benefit if y'all get some exercise in at the same time. If you're not sure even where to start on exercise, that's where something a certified personal trainer can be huge in helping you figure out what that schedule is going to look like, of when, how long, what types of workouts. If that's not something that you have in the budget, there are so many workout apps that you can download. They're free. There's a ton of free ones. So you have paid ones as well, but you can do tons of free apps that can help you develop that plan. They can help you be really focused, make sure you're making the most out of the time that you're putting into that workout. And there's so many different levels that go from kind of a beginner starter to something that's going to be really super challenging, even for a very fit person. The other thing I would say, when we're kind of still talking about being very specific and streamlined and keeping things simple, is keep your workout clothes out in plain sight. If you're going to exercise, work out, go to a boot camp at the park, or go to the fitness center, meet a friend at the park to walk after work, but that's a barrier sometimes, change clothes at work. So you're already in your workout clothes as you're heading out the door. You're going to be a lot less likely to just go home if you're already dressed for that workout. If keeping them out even in your office where you can see, so that you know, or wherever it is that you're going to be, so that it's kind of that reminder that you're about to go, you're going to end your day or whatever it is. In the morning, if you're going first thing, have those workout clothes set out the night before, so it's just easy. You don't have to think about it. The other thing I'd mentioned earlier is kind of those walk and talks. That can be with a person in person, but it can also be if you've got a friend who lives in a whole different city. I do virtual walk and talks with friends of mine all the time, and we'll just plan at a time that I'm doing it, they're doing it, put your earbuds in, and then it's a great way to catch up with them. And both of you, even though you're in different cities, are still getting that movement in. So again, very specific, very focused ways to incorporate that movement, still being streamlined, still being very simple, and still being very specific. So I hope that as you've listened to this and you're thinking of what your big wants are, your goals, your dreams, your wishes, and especially those things that you've tried in the past, you haven't succeeded, you want to try it again. And no matter how many times you've tried it, if you can kind of just, some or all of these are going to apply. So again, think through troubleshooting. Number one, troubleshooting what has pulled you off track in the past. That's the number one first question I ask my clients. What's pulled you off track in the past? What has prevented you from being successful? Number two, rethinking that self-identity, aligning who we view ourselves as with those healthy behaviors that we're striving for. Number three, evaluating our environment, and that's going to be the people around us, the food around us, our sleeping environment, whatever that might be. Number four, love your food that you're eating. If you're going to be incorporating this as a lifestyle, we got to like it. Number five, love your game plan. You want to look forward to what you've planned for these wellness things throughout the day. And then number six, one of the most important as well, keep it super simple, keep it as streamlined as possible, and keep it as specific as possible. So I'm hopeful that some of this resonates with you and some of this can help you move the needle in your lifestyle changes and what your goals are, what you're striving for. Email me with your feedback. You can message me on social media. Let me know. Let me know what of this has worked, what of this has maybe opened your eyes, opened your mind to things that maybe you hadn't really dialed into before. And if there's things that I haven't covered that have been super beneficial for you, let me know that as well. So I'm registered dietitian Molly Kimball, and you've been listening to Fueled Wellness and Nutrition, the podcast. And if you would like more Fueled Wellness and Nutrition, please head over to mollykimball.com, and you can follow me, Molly Kimball RD, on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And if you haven't yet, please go to Apple Podcasts and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast. And join us next week for another dose of Fueled Wellness and Nutrition. Thanks for listening, and stay focused on living your strongest, healthiest life possible.